Good Friday, everybody. Welcome to Dojo number 236. Just want to let everybody know, in case there's anybody new here today, that if you want to chime in with any thoughts or add to the conversation, you can click on the React button in the bottom taskbar. There you will find a raise hand button. Click that, and I'll call on you in the order your name was received. Good to see everybody. James, I see you're unmuted. Good to see you this week.
Yeah, you too. It's been a
I
bumpy week.
got, yeah, has
Yeah.
it? Yeah, I did see a fellow by the name of Peter F. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, but he had mentioned that you had some glitches. Um, so
Yep, he was right. I At first I was in denial. Hades does this to us. And yeah, he nailed it. Still no word on any update, but it comes and goes, so we'll see. I'm not sure how bad the stream was today, but that's part of why I wanted to check. It's good to know what the that was 10 megabits that stream was. So it's like says online, AI says it only takes three or four. Like Google, I mean, says it takes three or four, but obviously it takes more like 12, I think, to keep a clean stream. So anyway, so I don't know when I'll be back, but I've been able to build videos and upload those. I don't know if it's the best thing to do, but it's I don't feel like I'm unproductive. It's just a little bit frustrating because I want to be live right now, but that's okay. There's a lot more. I'm just glad I have something. It'd be a bummer if I didn't have anything at all. So yeah.
seems like you certainly do have something right now, and the especially with current events going as they are, I know that a lot of the stuff is just right in your wheelhouse. I mean, where you can just knock it out of the park.
Hmm.
I I know typically you or over the last couple of years, it seems like you've tried to steer away from the allure of current events and try to I mean, when I first found you, you you've just been such an important part of my journey in trying to hone my interest into ways that I feel are more suitable to myself.
Hmm.
Uh, and yet, as this stuff happens, I mean, you just seem so needed. And I wanted to mention it last week, just as far as things that you see as impediments to your ability to grow in the rate you wish to grow. And I mean, like it seems like, for example, that these technical glitches, now that they've been brought to the forefront of your mind, you feel like perhaps they are an impediment to this growth that you seek. Is that true? Or
No, actually, even though the internet has been down, I think if it was fully down, I would be very negative and I would be like, this is trying to hurt me. But because I still have internet, I've actually think that it's been my Uber Mensch trying to tell me to stop live streaming and produce videos because I don't do that. I find it not the art of editing video. I think is very rewarding. It's tedious. It's not the favorite thing I'd be doing. But writing is very painful, and I love doing that. So I'm a masochist. What can I say? But editing is not really something I. It's very draining because you're hearing the same audio or looking at the same video over and over again. And it's even more draining when it's yourself. It's very, it is very like, oh God. And a lot of times I'll put 3 hours into a video and I just stop. I'm just like, I just can't handle listening to my sucking face anymore. And it's not even like supposed to, it's not that I hate myself. It's that I don't like this task. I would rather just be more fluid and I really love what I do. I would rather just be able to do the live stream, Cameron. I'd rather just be able to do that. I'd rather just be able to do that live stream and just watch it slowly grow. Even if it's slow, it doesn't slowly grow. It just sits there. It's like a dead fish. And it's been a year. It's been about 3 years. And I used to be at 22,000, so it's very, as far as subscribers go, it's a little bit debilitating. I can tell you why. I can tell you why I don't have the same appeal. It's because I'm not as afraid. I really, I actually I know that's true. I know that's true. I think if I was more afraid, or if I was more into the fear porn of it, or if I hated ego, or if I would just stop being so contrarian, I would stop that. I probably would be more anyway, so these are the things. And but I do think I've been chopping my words up, trying to remove all of these spaces in between what I say. That's what I've been like, why do people have complained about that a lot about they're like, I listen to you at double speed and it doesn't help them because if you listen to me at double speed, the spaces are still there. They're just coming in twice as fast. So it helps no one. And me chopping myself up, I don't like because I thought that the space was helping someone breathe. The important word I just said, in my opinion, needs that space to breathe. And that's why it's there. I certainly some of it is maybe I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next, but if I was truly thinking about what I was going to say next, I just wouldn't say anything. I just most of it would be like, you can't fucking say that, or what are the implications of that, James? And there's the implications are always, I never know what is an offensive anyway, so I really don't. I do get that I offend people. I know that language isn't good. I know that self-deprecating stuff. I mean, there's certain basics, but it's like I don't necessarily know what it is that's going to offend someone here. Like Lucifer, it's so it's just so retarded to me that's the thing that we're listening to the language. I'm not really in touch with that. Watching the metrics of what's popular, watching what becomes viral is an exercise that I'm trying to have more interest in, like in pursuing. And it's just sort of it's I think the problem's that. I think the problem's only that. I'm guessing that if I was just to really understand what appeals, I use the live stream as a recording session, and then I go in and I edit that recording session and I develop clips from it. And if I just did that more, if I do that, that's like right now, that's like 95% of my work is editing clips. Like it's that much. It's so much more. It's like crazy more. And when I put something out, it doesn't bring me more subscribers. I get views on the short, but I don't really give a shit about that. Like I honestly I only really want subscribers because I just want the patron to be at least at this basic threshold. It was until I wrote a book, and now I'm suffering. I'm being punished for that book. It's not financially, like financially, it's just more of like how do I navigate through this where I could write a book and do this at the same time, and I would need to just have a larger audience, just more people uh, in the wheelhouse, so to speak. At least that's what I tell myself. I don't even know how accurate that is. I will say though that when I add up how many copies of the book I've sold, I basically sold like maybe one in every state, maybe two. And I just think that's absurd. I think it's absurd that in the great state of Montana that there's only two people in the entire fucking state that are interested in my book. This just doesn't I'm not saying everyone needs to like it, but it's why is it just two? Why is it that? So there's a lot of that too. Um this is why I was doing streams on uh trusting trusting the parts of yourself that you don't know are there. Because if I had a bigger audience, then uh the negative pushback might be too strong for me to be able to stomach safely. So I'm probably throttling myself more than anything. And really, I'm just super happy with my career. And I mean, honestly, I'm probably too happy. I'm probably too content, to be honest with you. I'm just not motivated. If I had like a kid or like alimony or like someone who was like losing faith in me because I'm not being a man, it's stuff like that. I think that that would probably help me a lot, to be honest. I don't, I would rather just research. I'd rather just put all the time into research. Even if it doesn't get out, it could get out. Like that's enough for me. I'm just like, but if I do read this, it could be that in 3 years, this is really important. I'm obsessed with that kind of stuff. I'm always banking that. And it does pay off, but I don't know if it's really sustainable in the way things are. I like the trees that have fallen are probably like, I don't know, a storm comes and you're looking at like 12 grand probably, like just with everything. And it's okay. And that's what I mean. I'm not doing bad enough to to make me flog myself even more, you know. I'm more of just like I want to be in my chair, I want to make sure everything's done, but also I really want to write this book. I literally feel guilty for writing the book until there's just more than two copies in a state. This I was talking about this earlier. I don't think that I'm the right model for an artist. I'm the artist that's telling you I only think it's art if it sustains me. It doesn't feel righteous um, if it's not able to create a magic carpet for me. I want to hover. I don't just want my work to make other people hover. I want to fucking hover too. I want to feel elevated, and you guys give me that. I mean, I that's what I mean by you know, I can't believe I'm saying this. Maybe that's the key. Maybe we should everyone cut their pledge. Maybe I'll work smarter. Maybe I'll be more motivated. Anyway, so those are the things that are going on, and I would imagine that if more people do pick up the book, I just won't feel quite so foolish as just being all like, this is gonna change everything. Which is quite frankly something that I do with every art project. It doesn't matter. You know, I'll mow a yard. I'm not that I would ever mow a yard, but if I was to mow a yard, I would, I could find myself turning it into an art project. So it's like, I do that. All of us look for ways to drink, moments to have. I do that too, with my work and stuff. It's such a weird living. Like it's such a weird thing that we're doing. So, yeah, that's a big mouthful. I don't see any hands up.
Yeah, thank you for letting me drag you or you know bring you the mat on that issue. You mentioned an insightful analogy about your circumstances and your situation as a content creator before. I don't even like using the word content creator. I think you're good at editing and you're good at writing and you're good at philosophy because you approach everything artfully. Um, you mentioned before being like a long rifleman and being invited into camps and then wearing out your welcome over time because you can't just bend the knee and be completely agreeable with everybody all the time. Uh, Even using that analogy to approach it, I don't want to. I mean, because but I just feel like people are paying attention. And when you talk about you want to float too, and not just have other people float. And you mentioned Monday as far as pirates and plundering that. You brought to my mind very recently neurological constellations, which ended up falling in a poem I used last week, and I've had like three or four people compliment me on that sentence and and I never bothered to shout out, hey, this is James True gave me this, but you gave me that. It's Your work is important, and obviously, I don't know,
The
you don't
Allen
need.
Institute, you need to thank the Allen Institute because the Allen Institute did like an 8 hour seminar over their new brain mapping technology, right? Where they map the mouse brain atlas. And you guys were like, hey, James, why don't you just fuck off and watch this entire 8 hour seminar on the brain? Why don't you do that? Like, that's what happened. And and then talking to reptiles came, after that. So, it's none of this is mine, right? None of this is yours. It really just is in the current. However, if you ever, I don't think Cameron suffers this, but if you ever find yourself going, why do I feel that that's my idea? Why do I feel that I'm not getting credit for that idea? There's something really important there. Like this is part of you know, of the whole thing. So uh, I've been trying to check myself and just I don't think that I warrant enough controversy maybe to pull that kind of torque. I definitely have some controversy, but it's more like polite philosophical controversy. I don't have like a really obvious opinion that you could shut down. Jay Dyer blocks me because he said, "Hey, if anyone wants to debate," and I was like, "I'll debate you," and he's like, "Blocked." Like the Archaics guy blocks me. There's Owen Benjamin. There's some people that have been like, look, I don't want to. Andrew Wilson, a dude that will debate anyone, would not actually just invite me on for a debate. It's a different kind of market, and I think I need to stop. It's not even that I'm really playing with it. It's more about just how do I just I just don't want to feel like a fool for calling myself a writer if the book isn't just like covering just like minimum wage. I it sounds petty, but it's just I I don't know why that's important to me, but it is. It just it just is. Otherwise, it just feels like I already have to pull a lot of torque in the room when I'm around people that don't believe the things that I believe. And I don't want to have to pour that torque that I'm a writer too. Does this make sense? It's like that. And I'll tell you something really, a good friend of mine who just wrote a book has had a lot of success, more than I could ever imagine having. Like I'm blown away to watch it. I mean, it's inspiring. And he told me today how fucked it is. How there's no financial reward. It's not how it works. It's I'm not saying that it won't come. I think it will, but it's everything you're living on a dream that's living on a dream that's living on a dream that's living on a dream. And isn't that what Israel's doing? Isn't that what America's doing? Isn't that what all the CEOs that have like, look at what Musk is doing? That's all he's doing is building dreams on top of dreams on top of dreams. And one of the dreams is that this dream is a foundation. Like that's literally one of the dreams. We're going to dream that this dream is a foundation that we can build shit on top of. And if you get enough people on board, people agree. I think that's really what it comes down to. Are enough people on board that James is a writer? Like I think that's really what it is. That's what I mean by hovering. You reach that state where everyone agrees, yeah, you can do this. Yeah. Yeah, you can be a writer. You can do that. And then the resources open up. It just allows. I actually have the resources. I think you're only watching me kind of sort of go into. There are two things that are bothering me right now financially that I wish I could do. One is leverage my house maybe and move so that I can pursue another part of my life with a relationship that has like a cohabiting state. I sort of not really lined up for that. I can be, but I have to do a lot of stuff to my house and then sort of stop working long enough to turn what used to be the place that produced stuff is now something that you're trying to co-modify or put it on a market, things like that. And then the just the storm damage, trying to leverage that and stuff like that. I'm actually doing great. I'm actually doing great, more great than anyone else is. I have zero reason to complain, and I still complain. And this is what I think the definition of being blessed means. Like I can shame myself and say I shouldn't complain, but honestly, this is really what, like, if you really look about what the definition of blessed means, it means that someone's given you something that you don't feel that you deserve. So they're asking you to deserve it. They're asking you to deserve something that you did not follow your protocol to earn things that you think you deserve, such as sweat, destroying red blood cells and evaporation, physical labor, doing things you don't want to do, working in the rain, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and on. That really all we're doing when we're laboring is convincing the world that we're worthy of currency. Like, what if that's it? What if that's the entire, really, that's what's going on? But we're all conditioned into these different modes, right? You're a white collar, you're blue collar. So you're just conditioned to only accept so much of that kind of abundance. I get that this might sound Abraham Hicksy or whatever, but I'm a technologist, a beliefist. I'm a believer of technology. Like I think belief is a technology. I'm going to be around people that believe things that I can't believe, but I still want to know how their motor works. I still want to see how that goes. So all the things that are happening to me are exactly. It just feels like I'm in the right place. Especially when I trust the motor that I'm not necessarily the person driving. There's a different equation who If that voice was to come out and speak to me, I would stop functioning. My neocortex would say, wait, wait, I didn't know I had an Uber voice. I have an inner voice and I have an Uber voice. My Uber voice has never spoken to me. My Uber voice, when I'm not looking, turns something or moves a chair so I don't fall or or unloads a gun or did what that kind of thing. It's always doing those kinds of things and I don't necessarily notice that. It also gets me bitch slapped. It also makes me say something at the just the right time to get me hit in just the right way, right? It's that different kind of it's the neocortex is flogging the hindbrain, and if you're to be flogged so much by psychology that's in your head, it might be a defensive strategy if you're functioning at a lower conscious level, which I am, to ignore that voice, to say that voice does not control me. My appetite controls me, my addictions control me, my hindbrain controls me, but not that voice, because that voice controls everything. And I'm not willing to accept that kind of. What would Pinocchio, what kind of life, quality of life would he have before he was a boy? If he fully acknowledged that I'm just a puppeteer's plaything, it's a he would miss all agency there, right? So you almost need the ignorance to turn the puppet on, to turn the golem on, right? And I'm that way. I'm so glad we have a hand. I'll stop. But yeah,
Thank you, James. Mary Jo, it's good to see you. Go ahead.
Good to see you too. I just wanted to say I absolutely loved your book, James. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was it's so giving in how you wrote it. Like it's just so I don't know. I'm still trying to think of the right book review. Like it's so good. And about the other stuff you were saying, I think one reason it's hard to get leverage is because you will just like I'm like I don't often say I'm good at something, but like I'm good at finding the right information, like the truest information, and like I can't stop watching your videos because I'm just like, oh my God, how does he know that? Like how does he know that? I feel the things that you know. And like there's some other people that I also like to listen to. One of them was a speaker at Astronosis also. I haven't been to one, but I know that he was. And like his whole everything he does is really good. He's a good writer too. But like the whole thing that is hanging over that is that the they, a lot of people can't let go of there not being a they because that's so much responsibility when there's no they. It kind of just zaps out a whole theory of of someone's system or their maybe that's what you call a cosmology, maybe. And then I also wanted to say that in one of your videos you said Medusa is a stone cold hottie, and I think that's a good t-shirt. I didn't want to forget to say that. And let's see, what else was I going to tell you? I don't know, I just really love the book. I think it's fantastic.
thank
Oh,
you. I'm writing.
and
Go ahead.
and also, so I was curious about clones, like the clones in your book.
Hmm.
Like, do you think they have souls? Like, I always think a clone wouldn't have a soul.
So, uh, I just saw this report today. I didn't have time to save it, and it was people are entering puberty now 4 years ahead on average than they used to. And of course, we're all saying it's because of they or because of that or this, and all that is very valid. I'm not dismissing that. It's also though happens to be what happens when you clone something that every time you clone something, there is a memory that is embedded. I'm not making this up. This happens with horses. This happens. We only know it happens with horses because those guys get cloned a lot. And when people are trying to clone the horse, they want the exact same horse. It also happens with animal breeds. that we end up with breeds that are, quite frankly, kind of cruel almost. But we're trying to perfect a certain look or a certain trait in something. And one of the things that comes with that is so there's a rumor that the Rottweiler, I hate to pick on the Rottweiler, but that the Rottweiler is only mean because their skull is too small and their brain is too large. Have you guys heard this before? That this is what they used to say. This is what made them mad, is because they took a small skull dog and mixed it with a big brain, and that's what makes it mad. And that's a I was all like, hey, that makes sense. Yeah, let's go for it. So I'm not even saying that's no, but if you were trying to raise a dog that had a higher propensity for violence, then you would take a dog that had a higher propensity for violence and get him laid, right? I mean, this is what happens. We breed that dog. So now the clone is half inside that other person, right? I'm sorry, the other dog. Remember, all your cells have two pairs of DNA in your body, every single cell except for one, your ovaries and your testicles, the only organs in your brain that only produces one. So you are cloning yourself every time you give birth. We are watching the effects of cloning in a slow motion process. Are you a soul? Because I think you are. I think I'm a soul. But I know that my grandfather is in my soul. I know that I'm preoccupied by a lot of stuff, a propensity for things. One of those things would be violence if I was a Rottweiler. I would be born into violence even though I was a Rottweiler that never had any violence. I would have a mystic memory that's been embedded into the codons of my DNA that has activated memories that it deems important enough to, check this out, to avoid the transposons from erasing it. Transposons are this cross pollination of genes, and I'm suggesting that maybe transposons are a cleaning filter. It's kind of like your clipboard, and it's just coming in, or your cloud storage, and it's remove or your trash, excuse me. And it's if something's 30 days or older, I'm sorry, spam. Last analogy changed. This is it. But like your spam folder, that after 30 days, the spam folder is automatically cleansed because you haven't jumped in to say, hey, I want that. What if your epigenetic memories worked off that? If they did, then you would need to not just have a violent dog to make a Rottweiler that has your perfect attack dog. You would need to have a gene that has a strong enough urge inside of it to where every single opportunity to try and erase things through the amnesia of time are thwarted by new signatures inside of the DNA. Did you probably know that without the Y chromosome, this special little chromosome that we have, that actually even with it, that the word male is expressed like I'm making this up a gajillion times already inside your code. That built into the code is this gene that says, let's make a male. We know this through mice, by the way, that you can, it's really easy to get a hermaphroditic mouse that has ovaries and testicles. And so think about it as you have to write the instruction enough to make it important. You have to repeat it enough to make it important. So the soul really is just the constant avatar that changes the cursor that's on top of the genes, is really what the soul is. It's the constant person who's sitting in the cockpit. It could be anybody. It could be any occupation. But you need to understand that the second you get into the cockpit of this anybody, you are flooded in the limbic proclivities of your gene architecture. What you want, your favorite color, if you're afraid of a garden hose, all, if you have a higher propensity for fear of heights but not drowning, these things are wired into you because you're sitting in the mercy seat of that gene. So in my mind, when you have a clone, a perfect clone, then you're looking at two people that are occupying the same seat, and they end up finding each other in their free will unavoidably. that over time, the decisions that they would make would slowly steer them into their epigenetic proclivity. Yes, we could argue, what about the individuation of the soul? Some people will say that doesn't exist. Some people, honestly, I highly respect, say that doesn't exist. I disagree with them. I disagree with them because we haven't studied the science of aesthetic or qualia yet. What I mean is that if you take into account how much qualia you absolutely will require in order to just even fucking be here, that is your free will. Do you understand? Like your desire to have a rich experience is your only free will. Everything else is predetermined. That if you're going to sit in a place that has these limbic cues in it, you are going to come out limbically cued that way. And the only person that would survive, I swear to you, is just a psychopath. It's just someone who's a psychopath who can log into any tank and still pretend that they just love Snow White and this is their favorite color's orange and it's never going to change. I don't think that's possible. So when I look at clones, I just look at that. It's signatures. It would seem to me that clones are a lady in waiting, a sacred piece of knowledge that is purposely waiting for us that will only bloom once we start fucking around with CRISPR enough. That once we start fucking around with that, there is an algorithm built into cloning itself that just it doesn't say, oh, you did it or oh, you failed. It just educates more. Because it really what it's doing is showing us who we are. The very last bastion of who you are will be the I am. This will be the final, uh, honestly, this will be your final soldier. The last element that keeps you as yourself will be this insistence that I am. What would be beyond that would be when your liquid computer loses its surface tension and you are mixed in the waters of everything else, you're probably gone. So really all a clone is just a droplet of water. And when you have all these people that are occupying the same shell, which takes a lot of ingenuity for us to come up with that, we end up in this situation, which is why I'm so convinced about the patriarchs. I'm just, it fucking makes so much sense when you look back at the stories that we're hearing in the Bible versus like how cloning works. It's unnerving how striking this is to me. It's why I'm so glad I got to write the book. It's why I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to spend, all those hours watching the Allen Institute or doing these other things. The Allen Institute completely changed my entire theory on virus. Like I could not stay there and in this camp and watch this data at the same time. I just couldn't do it. I'm not saying I'm right, guys. I'm telling you that if you go this way, if you make your squiggle go this way, I don't think you're going to come out any different than I am. I just think I don't think predeterminedly it would be possible unless you brought in a lot of trauma or a lot of belief, right? Whatever it takes to survive the barrage of information. But that information is kind of rape. It's when you start to
Mhm.
you don't know what it's going to say. You don't know what it's getting ready to tell you, right? And when it does, what if it changes you? What if it destroys your belief in magic? Then what are you going to do? Well, what if it amplifies it by 10? Exactly. So what
What
are we
is the
doing?
Allen Institute?
Allen Institute is uh head of Microsoft, dude. Believe it or not. Okay, you want to talk about beyonders? All of us are just like, fuck them, fuck them. Fine, keep doing that. But the Allen Institute, Steve Allen, I think that's his name, one of the founders of Microsoft, Paul Allen, thank you, True. I can read your lips. It was Paul Allen says True. One of the founders of Microsoft came out and said, "Hey, let's fucking study the brain. Let's fucking look at consciousness. Let's figure out what it is." And you open the Allen Institute, and this is just like one of many. Do you know how? Do you know who pays for Michael Levin's work? Is fucking Paul Allen, the Allen Institute. And that not only did they pay for Michael, I didn't know that. I had already found this Atlas stuff the Brain Atlas, sorry, the Allen Institute paid for the mapping of the first brain. We're going to trace every neuron that exists in the brain. We're going to use a rabies protein shell to do it. We're going to put a glow in the dark tracer, a smear agent inside this rabies virus, and we're going to put it inside of a dead brain that's actually kept alive in this. Anyway, I'm not going to the ethics of it right now. They're mapping the entire brain because the rabies virus is able to leave a marker on every spot. So you're able to know which neurons are fired first and which aren't and how they work on their whole life. It's completely changed our entire understanding of how our psychology works. And I think how our immune system works. Alan Institutus, who taught me that there are afferent nerves in the eye. I did not know that. I never knew that. That there are nerves in the eye that we don't know what they do, that they come into the eye. They're not in the eye and leave. They're in the brain and they're coming into the eye. There's cords coming from somewhere else into the eye. What the fuck's going on there? And then you have all this contradictory data that evolution would always find the least path of resistance. Well, why the fuck over your eye is going to go all the way to the back of your head and create an occipital lobe, then send the signal all the way back through? Who would do that? Who would do that? And the answer is this holographic time machine. Three different entities would do this. That's the only way they'd be able to do it. They'd have to develop their own sense of, I know what's true. I know where the vision is. So this is why cloning, I don't even think cloning is a real word, Mary Jo. Like it is, but it's so much more about every single element has the ability to be conscious because we're going to redefine consciousness as something a little bit more sentient memory. You can separate the two and say memory and sentience are separate, but I don't really know if you can. I think we're making the same mistake when we consider that water can't be a computer. Because if I can shout into water, if I can say I love you into water and you drink that water and you feel better, this is a computer. This is a sentient agent that's able to receive things and send them out later. It's our definition of what consciousness is that's always been pin the tail on the donkey. And so we've needed words like soul before we had radio, before we had wireless communication. We needed to explain, so we said it was all through effervescent vapor. It's Holy Spirit, right? See, all these are codons, all these are smells. This is what I think smells really are. They're just highly spun memory. Like a skunk is like, I'm going to spin the fuck out of these molecules. Like so much. And when they hit you, the algorithm's going to knock you on your ass because they're so powerful. The bandwidth is so strong that your neocortex can't even process it because your olfactory shuts it down beforehand. It's like, this is probably what we're really dealing with, which is why I keep saying it's a chemical solution. Everything's sentient, is what I'm arguing, Mary Jo. Everything is sentient. We are in such denial about the totality of the sentience that we utilize, I'm just going to say dark matter because, why not? But we utilize dark matter as sort of like a way of protecting, of giving us this surface tension to allow ourselves to exist. That this is the only thing keeping us alive is the space between. That's why you're being told by physicists your entire life, everything's space. It's all space between. It's like, yeah, because there would be no you without that. It's crucially important, right? To this framework. There's other hands up, but great stuff. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Jo. Um, it's I agree. I like everything you said, and yeah, it's the soul as an architectural uh, thing that yeah, that's I think that's a very powerful way to think about it, especially if for a lot of people who might see the word soul as a such a prominent term, and yet for most of my life there wasn't really a definition for it. It was this mystic thing.
If you were to, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in here again, but if
No,
you were to go to an island and there was copper on the island and you were to beat the copper long enough and to find a way to spiral it just right and to, after you take that spiral, take a magnet and place it on that spiral in a certain place, you would hear the fucking radio. And you'd be like, where the fuck is this coming from? And that same radio, if it's built in another continent on another island that's close by for radio range, you would still hear the same signal. And you could build 17,000 transistor radios and they would all hear the same signal. And every one of them is simply an algorithm of architecture. We're surrounded by architecture, so we don't understand that the architecture is the program. If you build an obelisk tall enough out of a single sheet of granite or something that has a lot of salt in it or a lot of quartz in it, that just by the shape of that obelisk, you're going to have a potential of ions on top and a potential of ions on bottom, right? So it's like even shape itself is an algorithm. It's not an energy source, although it's fine, but it's the algorithm that's giving it the energy. It's the algorithm of that, which is why I think that clones are simultaneously possible, ineffable, like infinitely possible, but also meaningless. Because really, it's the clone is our cosmology. Your entire framework is built over this myth, which I want you to keep. Because keep in mind, I want belief. I want all of you to understand you're living on belief that you truly are the myth of I am. And I think this myth has more tangible possibilities to survive in the world than over any kind of physicality or any kind of just this piece of matter has a soul, but this doesn't. That's never really equated. We just needed that to slowly emerge from the water.
Yes. Uh, True. I can't wait to get to you. If you don't mind, if I could just say, like, whenever Mary Jo asks, "Does a clone have a soul?" and James gives his response, I think that it's very pertinent for all of us because I think that in that question is like, am I the keeper of my soul, or am I the victim of my soul's consequence, or of this architecture? I'm a congealed interest, like my grandfather and all these people, all these demons, or I shouldn't use that word to refer to my grandpa because I understand connotatively, but within this group I feel safe, and I'm excited to see how the conversation today with Carmen Struder goes. Um, it and I love that James is so studied and has his long rifleman view on the subject of biology and biological engineering and cloning, because I do think that we are far closer to clones than we might allow ourselves to think, and that might simply be a consequence because of what the egregore or the collective of us need to push cloning for to market it. So it gives it a name that makes it magnificent, magical. Um, True. Thank you for waiting. It's good to see you. Go ahead.
Certainly, certainly. Hi, everybody. Um, Voltage and the creative process. I mean, that's what I'm getting right now. Just to give you a little bit of background, and I swear I wasn't going to talk about art or anything until something changed. Well, I'm working with a potential client right now. Did an initial consultation this morning for a red light therapy salon. So it's kind of cool. Really, really cool. I had a lot of fun. So, we'll see where that goes. But about just a little bit of background, about 18 months ago, I did a collaborative project, which ended up doing 6 plates, 6 images of what I can only describe as a cross between I can't even describe this. Basically, a mandala, a meditation aid, a light language, and a map of star seeds. I don't know how else to put it. And these images, every curve I drew on my tablet. It was intentional. It was coming from somewhere else. I was working on this a collaborative project, and we were in close vibrational proximity. I don't know how we were vibing on this together, and it was my job to visually bring this forth out of the ether that this other person, my collaborator, was experiencing. And I'm gonna post one so everybody can see it in the chat post, so everybody can see kind of what this is. And it was such a daunting challenge because I think it looks cool as hell, but it's like a cave painting trying to communicate what's in a crystal cathedral. And there's just so much more there. And there's another round coming up. And I started reading and visualizing some of the work from Walter Russell, The Universal One, The Secret of Light. And you had mentioned Terrence Howard's ebook before about how and what he was talking about were the platonic solids. They're curved. All the planes and intersections are curved. And when I read that, this little circuit went off in my brain. Said, I don't know where to go from here. And I've been recovering ever since. And I've been integrating this in a meditative state for about a year. And I think it's about ready to come forth. I had some epigenetic stuff and some family wounding about what it is to be an artist. I think I've talked about this before. I don't want to get back into it with my mom and my grandmother. I did a session with somebody recently and made contact with my maternal grandmother. And it was very, very powerful and very, very profound. So now I've made contact with that side of the family as well as my dad's side of the family, my paternal grandfather. So when I'm getting all this information, it's like I'm learning this language and I'm just going. So any insights anybody has on how to integrate this stuff into a artistic medium, I'd love to hear any insights. That's about all I got.
I love to hear that, True. I love to hear that you're collaborating with someone and putting their vision into the physical medium, and that you're speaking of light language. You talk about I can maybe help in terms of reading things that are it's just this the slow grind. I mean, I'm currently studying everything from Parmenides to, I mean, basically like how we came to logical negation. And you talk about light language and since we all like mythology here, Athena, said that was the way. And but that's beside the point. I have been for the last 30 days stuck in 40 pages of a book that I'm just reading slowly, and it's just and yet even though like I don't know, it just starts to make sense. So I'm excited to see how that works. Are you reading this? Is it the Walter? Were you saying it was the Walter Russell that's bogging you up?
Actually, the thing that blew my mind was because I've been working with, I have this energy practice and sigils or whatever you want to call it with the platonic solids and other things. But when Terrence Howard said and had a couple of references in his ebook about, well, they're all like planes and vectors. They're not straight lines. It's not a triangle. It's more like, I don't even know how to do it. And I just kind of went, and it's like I've been trying to integrate that. And in the complexity of Walter Russell and some of his drawings in The Secret of Light are just mind blowing to me. And how do I have a unique expression of that without just like glomming on to what they've already done? I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. And
I think we all are. Yeah, no, James
Yeah.
said so much earlier whenever I was giving him a shout out for bringing neurological constellation to my plate. Yeah, that's the stuff. I really feel that a lot of the stuff is in the air, and yet that does not to deny the skill to bring it out in a way that can stand the test of time, or in a way that becomes timeless and relatable. Which
reverently, because I can feel it. It's in my third eye. I can feel it in the bones and the flesh and the spine. It's all there. I just don't know how to unpack it yet. But I have faith that I can move forward with that. So maybe that's all I need right now.
Well, I I agree that I get the sense also that our mind bends light, for example, straight, whereas we know, according to our language, looking back, that its properties are radiative. They, they move out. Yeah, but we see undoubtedly. I mean, and I'm approaching this as a consequence of uh, deception, as a consequence of our ability to deceive ourselves. A path that we've been on since, again, I'm in Parmenides right now, so he's talking to Athena. She's telling him, not is not the way. Saying is not the way. I am is the way. The light language, positive for things existing positively, and yet uh, I can't take not out of my language anymore because it's 220 plus generations of people using of hardwiring this crystal palace that you're trying to visualize. It has a real consequence. And it's not even, maybe it's not even wrong that we bend the light straight, but I do agree that I think that we sense something that is somewhat illusory. Um, and and as James has said before, there's something about deception. It's a key ingredient in the great work.
Yeah,
Where
and some of my hesitation, I've just been pondering. Okay, oh, it's not time yet. Well, is that a cop out? I, and so I work with that too, the doubt. So
James, if you can hear me, you're muted.
you're muted, James.
If you can take what's thank you, if you can take what's true out of the equation completely, just understand that what people call true is just what a bunch of fascists just need to happen just so they can feel better. It's how they digest food. Then you really get to lean into more about who you are and what your ancestors are, because this is why I think belief is so important, because you're never going to be able to get anywhere through logic. You're going to have to wait for everyone else to back up your logic in order for it to be logic. But your belief, you get to do whatever you want. You get to set up your belief however you want. You get to say, I'm going to win the lottery if I buy this lottery ticket. And if you want to practice that, what's wrong with practicing that? What's wrong with spending the rest of your life every day thinking that if you hold your mouth right and you buy a lottery ticket that day, that you'll win? And if you didn't win, it's because you didn't hold your mouth right. Because in my mind, this is what an organic intelligence would do. It would experiment. It would place its aim. I want to go here. I'm going to try every single thing I can to get there. Every single thing. I don't care how crazy it is. I'm just going to literally throw every single thing at it. See, exact same thing. I'm pretty sure that this is actually queued up. It's the exact same thing as this when you're watching this AI walk, right? He's trying every single thing he can. He's just trying every single. There's nothing right. He's not taught. He's just trying,
absolutely.
right?
Can I say that, well, James, when I'm studying the ways of naysaying and logical negation, I'm studying them as a falsity, as something that's completely like untrue, and not like I don't think it like that. What you're seeing there is a person is something being. That's the ontic way,
Yeah.
not I am not. I am is the ontic way.
Yeah,
That
there
and
are.
so
Think about it like sculpture. Lies are a form of. So there's additive sculpture and there's subtractive sculpture, right? And one way is to start with wet clay and build it up from nothing. Another way is to start with a hard rock and hewn away what's not there, what doesn't belong. One is defining art through what is a lie. This rock doesn't belong here; it's lying. And one is defining a something not through what is true. This is where you get confused, but through declaration. See, we don't want to own the idea that we can declare something and make it true. We have to declare something, then go ask permission from a bunch of fucking muggles, by the way, if this is okay to be true. And every time we come back with the least common denominator and we call that, oh, this is true because this is the least common denominator. This is the thing that every single sloth in the world, nothing against sloths, but if you put a bullet to everyone's head, they would be forced to say this is the least of what's true, right? So you always know where the bottom is. And that bottom's called objectivity. This is why only so many people succeed because it takes that much oomph to see past that mundanity. It's a surface tension. That's why it looks like objective reality. That's why it looks like all these sexy words. I mean, no offense, but it looks like logic. It looks like the quadrivium. It looks like the trivium. Really, those are just rules of rendering triangles on the screen. It's not true or false. In fact, falsity is the other side of a triangle. This is so important, which means this gives it shape. You know, if you're cold on the other side, you know exactly where you are in the world. I'm on the side of the world where I think gay people are bad or where I think gay people are good. These are just different sides of the same triangle. You're still seeing the same reality, right? So it's fucking great. It's we would want to be able to be in a lie, be the only way that we could really find this because ultimately I think what we're mapping is not a reality of physicality, it's a reality of denial of what everyone else has. This is probably just the structure of what our cranial bones look like. Like it's full of all these spider web holes that are everywhere. And you could get lost in there for centuries, not really knowing what's true or false. You're just building off the rumors of what everyone else thinks. This is probably who we are. Just electric rumors running around getting really pissy if you try and say that our rumor isn't true. It's ultimately that's really what's happening chemically. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, James. And forgive me for you're the one with the philosophy degree here. I'm sorry for dragging you into this elementary things. Yeah, I absolutely, I mean, I say it's falsity, but only in the sense of like something has to exist before it can be denied, I guess. So I don't, but
Yeah,
when I
no,
say
I
that,
think it's important we keep having to bring it up because the falsity is your torque. See, I don't want to take away anyone's torque. I just want people to understand that when you're like, that's not true, what you're really doing is showing, look how strong you are. Look at that. You got good grip, right? Your grip of this is righteous, or your grip of that's false, that's false. This is just a form of action, right? Neither one of them's right. Yeah, how do you get up to really ultimately people are going to judge you on how far you go. Then they're going to say everything that you must have done has to be true. It must be the most optimal way to get there. And that's the answer. And that's never the answer, but it's how we find out. It's how you break the 4 minute mile. It's how you learn to do things we couldn't do, like cross the Mississippi, create the rumor that everyone needs to register a something in nature. Like that to me is brilliant. It's like, do you realize how impossible that was to be like, look, we're going to convince everybody they have to fill out a sheet of paper. They got to shave a dead tree, fucking carve into its skin this promissory note attached to their destiny, feel psychologically pulled from it for the rest of their fucking lives as long as they don't have a sticker on a piece of metal that's on a piece of card. And all of us are just like walking around just like, yeah, this sounds good. This has nothing to do with truth, right? It's all fascism. That's really all logic is. It's just the opposite of but fascism isn't a bad word, right? It's the concrete that it's the belief that you've insisted is not a belief to build everything else off of. So it requires fascism. We can't even take that away. I want to see how you can pull belief and I want to see the torque that you use. What results does it get? I don't care what the words were. I don't care the magic phrase. I just want to see if it's doable. If I see it's doable, I am leaving with something that I didn't have before. I don't even need the answer. I saw it was possible. This is really, I think, ultimately what's training us, is just recognizing that because that's the spark gap that most of us doesn't have. All of us are like, well, this isn't possible. We don't know that, but most of us, everything that hasn't been done is impossible. That's literally what most of us think all the time. I'm included in this, right? So you have to sit there and go, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be a writer. And I have to pick things that others aren't going to be like. If I tried to say I want to be a ballerina, you fuckers would shoot me down. But if I say I'm going to be a writer, some of you guys are like, oh, let's see it. Let's see what you got. Right? I'm leveraging your torque. Isn't that really what ultimately would make me a writer? Is if everyone else believed it enough to go, well, I need to buy this guy's book because he's a writer. It's it's an underground prana economy of fascism. All of us get to be a fascist. All of us get to do this. And we're secretly deciding who gets to be mayor, who gets to be pariah, right? It's really what we're doing all the time.
I think about what you have that is of great value to me, and that is that spark gap and that ability to think. And you talk about pulling a currency and understanding currency. I don't know if it's true for you, but I've had to unlearn a lot of hatred towards currency because of coming from a family that was always just in the deepest red pits of debt. And but it's a magic currency, and I wonder, like, as far as the underground currency goes, I mean, surely you had to feel it as current events started to manifest. That there, I mean, I know for a fact that there are thousands of people out there drooling in their cups, as you said, their coffee cups, to hear your thoughts on, on what's going on in the Middle East currently.
Yeah. I'm sorry I keep going in. I appreciate you, Daraj. Uh, I still have a problem with money, obviously. But my problem with money has always been the thing that's led me to the right place. It's always been that. So I have to be careful, to be really careful with how much I open my vent holes of success because I really do recognize that. I wouldn't have bought a van. I wouldn't have said, I don't want to do this anymore. I probably would have gone to a private school. I probably would have gone to Ivy League school. Honestly, I probably would have gone to an Ivy League school. If I came out of Ivy League school, I'd feel like a fool if I was like, I'm going to abandon all that. I would feel too much like I owed it to my family line to go to William and Mary. And now that I'm here, I have to prove that blah, blah. And see, it's, it's been the thing that's shaped me the most. It's moved me into the right places. So there's a reason why I don't believe in money. It's because what I want isn't necessarily money isn't going to necessarily get me there. It's this is the struggle. Now I'm in a different shore. I feel a different sort of way, and you just watch. But all of us, we go through this all the time. It could be self-worth, but it also could be me trusting myself, which is why I really just have to remember I don't really know what I'm doing. I really don't. I can have a belief about what I'm doing, and then I can just sincerely tell someone, I believe this. I believed I could be a writer. It's like that. I didn't fail because I'm telling you what happened. I believed I could be a writer and I wrote a book. It's I want is just I want you to get up there and do karaoke. It's like that really is what it's about. It's no one's doing that. Very few of us are doing that. And it takes a long time. You have to build up breath, you got to build up uh, stamina to go about and do that again, to say what kind of I'm going to believe this against the auspice of my brother or sister or my family, like that, or my doctor. Don't you see that Corona was, don't you see how it's a blessing? Like, don't you understand that without Corona, none of us would really have really fully taken ownership of my body, my choice? Like, you saw Republicans and Democrats singing. That was hilarious. Like, you could not have been trolled more than to watch a red-blooded American MAGA hat wearing guy say, my body, my choice. That's hilarious. It shows you how there's a cosmic gesture, how it's all working. But more importantly, it shows you don't put too much. Like, you gotta hold that racket just right. And I don't know how to hold it. I really don't. I mean, I'm happy with where I've gone, but I always feel like, why can't I do this better? And this is probably what it feels like to just always be practicing, to always be trying to do something better like that. I'm saying all these things because if you really want to tap into who you are, I think you need to understand that your ancestor was you, but it's not in this. There's this separate thing called a soul, and it's inside your body now. I want you to think about it. You as you were the song on the radio, and your grandfather tuned to 106.5, and you were there. And you have been born and you turned to 106.5 and you're there. The only thing that's different is that you have two separate memory allocations that don't have access to each other. This happens all the time in software. You've got one browser window open and you can go back and forwards in that history, but then you've got this other browser window open. You can go backwards, forward in that history. You're tuning into the same web page. So you're going to get the same signal. But you can change that at any point in time. You can have as many openings as you want. You can have all those things happening. This is your identity. Your identity is a tuned signal, which already makes you infinite because you could have infinite transistors. You could have infinite clones. I don't know if that's a good thing, but you could. This is, you're greater already. If this is getting you to a greater where you have to understand yourself greater, I think you're heading into omniscience. I think you're heading into God, which in my mind, Mary Jo, one of the reasons why I wrote this book about clones is because isn't this the way to divinity? If I go through this door that I'm a clone, that I'm my own clone, I can now start to practice a technology of belief where if I just believe hard enough that I can break into that allocated memory space, I can tap into that. I already do it anyway. I already have characteristics of my grandfather that are already here. So why can't I just believe hard enough and just tap into those more? This is like airbending. You're you're not, but you're not taking your separate soul and teaching it a special trick. You're abandoning your soul and realizing that it's the entire bandwidth, it's the entire signal is who you are. That's who it is the whole time. That it's not the needle on the record, nor is it the record. It is the combination of both being played, and that's timeless. It's fucking timeless. It's like it's intellectual property, but on a very different level, like how crystals learn from each other across the continent. They start growing instantly overnight because one of them figured it out. It's that kind of thing. This is and everything's entangled anyway. We already know we have this resonant system in place. So this see, actually there's more torque here. There's actually more torque in this idea of associating yourself, not as a separate soul that's tied to your body, but as a signal or a hertz or a propensity, an antenna that has a certain shape, a certain curlicue that makes it you. And all you gotta do is just bend it right. Oh shit, now I'm Steve. Now I'm Becky. Now I'm Doug. That's really all it is. This would mean that all of us are God. This would mean that all of us are God and we could just dial the difference. Here, let me fix your cervix so you can tune this in. Boom. Now you're Grace Jones. And now you're David Bowie. And it's just the same. All the signals are there. You're tapping into now from a different place. See, this is a larger way of looking at it. It's not the same idea of abandoning yourself into, well, you become selfless. No, I'm saying you become self-full, motherfucker. I'm saying that you are not just yourself, but you're every iteration of yourself that's dared to carry the same signal. The fact that you're alive now proves that this signal seems to be pretty hardy because it's probably lasted about 200,000 years because you're tapping into the cerebellum. Remember, that's just all the stored memories, according to the Allen Institute. This is collapsed memories that do not require logic to function. That's what your cerebellum is. And this is why we imaginate it and call it logic. We call it the separate world of objectivity because it's information that's coming from a dimension that is outside of ourselves that feels inherently true. And it feels inherently true because your cerebellum's just telling you 2 plus 2 is 4, not because I did the math, because I've just done this so much, I fucking know the answer's 4. This is a divine epiphany knowledge. It's the exact opposite of logic, but we're calling it logic. We're calling it objective thought. We're calling it Platonism. And I don't mind, but really we're just talking to our cerebellum. I mean, you've heard Plato's cave. You leave your optic nerve. You step out of the windows that are painted on the shadows on your wall. You go into the true light, the pineal, this sacred light that is so strong, the reflexive now is so intensely uncomfortable that we can't handle it. So we run back down in the cave again. It's all of this is our anatomy. It's all here. So Shakespeare, Plato, Socrates, these are mental constructs that you've used to build a mythology so you could remember and reference these things. These are things that you figured out a long time ago. You decided it was a monad. Then you decided it was a biad, then a triad. Then everything was, no, there's 4 liquids in the body, man. You got your pee, you got your spit. I mean, you've gone through all these things because you put so much time into it. Your signal's still here because you're doing something right, not wrong, right? Like you're doing something right. And honestly, that being right is having a faith, finding out it's wrong, developing another faith, finding out it's wrong, developing another faith, finding out it's wrong. Test, shit test, shit test, shit test, shit test, shit test. So it feels like we're failing, but this is what success really is, It's just that movement of things that we discover with enough clarity that we can trace them into our cerebellum and store them forever and know that I now have that. I now understand that cliff bad. I now understand that giant saber-toothed mouth bad. Sea bear, shit in pants, run. All these things, right? This is just the cerebellum that's just telling you this is logic. This is logic. And so we automatically have the torque. The torque, this is why I love the belief technology, because the torque is already there. Something about the cerebellum gives you all that torque, all that belief is caramelized. You just feel it's right intuitively. This is a powerful force. Maybe we could function this way like all the time, and then really cool shit would happen. It probably already is, honestly. It's probably already happening. Big mouthful, sorry.
It happens through the RNA, just like everything that happens with rabies. And so you essentially have to lie to your own RNA to have any epigenetic activity. It's like an epigenetic pathway, which is how I think cloning works. Like you reverse engineer the epigenetic, you know, RNA that resulted in you, that makes it seem like people leapfrog in their grandfather's proclivities and things like that. But it seems everything goes back to this RNA, and just even with current RNA technology. So you essentially have to lie to your previous belief, and we dress it up as logic, and it's just so easy. There's just so many official ways to say I have used logic, and just we have so many ways to convince ourselves. It's just to me, it's just all the epigenetic pathway, and that's how we if we can't lie to ourselves, then we can't develop a new belief. It just I don't know. Sorry to interrupt.
Great stuff, Pi, and I agree, and brilliant stuff as well, James. I meant today to follow Renee's great example and remind us when we hit the 45-minute mark, but we're at the 72-minute mark now, which I'm reminded. Next time I'll try to get that on the button, and I'll try to time in and remind us when we're getting a little closer so we can get James out of here for his interview today. Daraj, thank you so much for your patience. It's good to see you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Do I sound okay? Can you hear me?
You sound great.
Thank you. I want to say, I mean, there's obviously mouthfuls going on, but I love the art talk and sort of the ethereal nature of like how do you weaponize the placebo effect, and then perhaps the switch in faith from thinking about weaponizing placebo into like utterances that are cohesive to the vortex you want to manifest. Where are you putting your attention? So there's this sort of control of focus and attention that does play a role into, if you're saying the words, you have that little voice that is silent, but it happens before the actual words come out of your mouth. And there's a jujitsu of what that little voice is saying and the actual harmonics of the body of the child, right? The purely, the moldable clay that is your reality. And I think the word aether is very important, and that's with AETHER. The AE is sort of a quantumly entangled A and E, and this is what Hebrew Aleph and the essential toroidal field, the torus symbol in the Phoenician language, points to. This mechanism of the toroidal field that is the charge collapse between your eyes. And so when we talk about art or like how do I actually ground these, crystal palaces that I'm channeling via my meditations and the vibrations? How do you etherically anchor that mechanism onto the piece of paper, whether it be writing or art? The reason uh, seeds germinate is because of vortex mechanics, charge implosion. You are imploding light into the mirror mechanism. Like the matrix then registers that, and then we get the crazy processes of manifestation that show up online, or someone says a thing that I thought of a day ago, or whatever that sublimating rate would be, at different levels of whatever it is. Like, I'm gonna go walk upstairs to get water, I manifested water, you know what I mean? Or I thought about it raining, and then it rained in like 10 minutes or whatever. We all have examples of the intangible tangible combining. And we think about alchemical descriptions of light and the depictions of the alchemist or the magician. There's this concept of the rebus, and the rebus is the masculine feminine combined into one, right? And this is sort of how I perceive the oscillations of the mind. You're oscillating between creative left right brain, and that mixture pot, that vortex of your own magnetism of different thoughts swirling in your brain, is a part of seed germination as well. And it follows the same geometrical principles that we can point to that would be in the Platonic solids and geometric truths. And even the work with Dan Winter's work of charge implosion. He's been doing charge implosion, etherical work, meditation, working with nodal points and ley lines and piezoelectrics to tap into that out of body effects and tap into the high theta, high gamma waves. And he has tons of testimonies of people being able to, do this repeatedly with different practices and techniques. And like, the body is the strongest orgone generator, but it's the channel through the observer that you are receiving that light of whatever it is that you're trying to do magically or physically, right? Sort of the necessity to ground all value into the physical is a part of sixing. Sort of this concept of taking every aspect of the Trinity and then grounding it into the physical, because you are the Trinity, the Mother, Father, all to build this physical reality in which we perceive our value. But then we all know the temporary nature of physical things, and data storage, or sort of the loss, risk, insurance nature of our expectations, the things that we build. So when we talk about aether, like, you are investing into that spiritual nature, which is a manifestation, which can sublimate physically. And so it's more of like, what's the signal path of that echo loop, mirror reflection, masculine, feminine, get down to like, is it the chicken or the egg, or the egg or the chicken? Or is it the ashes and then the phoenix, and then the ashes and the phoenix, right? Is it the fool and the magician, or the fool and the magician, magician and the fool? That's the real quantum paradox, is you're oscillating between the fool and the magician. And like, once you think that you are the magician, you get thrown down into the fool. You become the hanged man. You get crucified upside down, and then you have to start over. Right? Anyway, thank you for letting me get all that out. I'm like,
Thank you for sharing all that, Niraj. And I love that you speak in terms of determination, and what you bring generally to the conversation. I like your nomenclature and uh, and the oscillation between the fool and the magician is it's a real deal. Um, Mary Jo, uh, thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to it made me think of when my son is 16 now, but when he was younger, like kindergarten age, we had to do this therapy called sensory integration disorder. It was for something called sensory integration disorder, and it's that's also something that supposedly autistic people have to deal with. But I don't know. I always feel like I dreaded doing that because I hated just having to do like a therapy, but it did help him. But I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. And it just seems kind of relevant given all the stuff we talk about. Like, because he would, um, it's like it helped him, but deep down I knew that that's really just stupid. Sensory integration disorder is not a real thing. That just describes some type of evolutionary thing, I think. And he's also one of those people that can hold a light bulb and it just comes on. I don't know. He just holds it in his hand and whatever's going on with his whole electrical thing, it'll just light up. And he's still like super bright. Like he always just had
Can
this.
you teach me to do that?
I don't know how he does it. He gets embarrassed about it, so he won't really talk about what's going on when he does that. Anyway, I thought you guys would find that interesting.
Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot more to this than we think. And I guess I've said this before, but like Moses is born with full knowledge of himself. His full language capabilities. He's has hair. And all these things would suggest someone who's gone through puberty, one, and someone who has memory of who he used to be. And so, if you had the ability to give birth to your exact same DNA, maybe your DNA, especially when you were alive, when your same DNA was alive, it could be that both of you being alive are tapping into the same memory field. The same memory allocation is there. It's when we lose part of our antenna that we're not able to transmit it. So all the stories that you read about sacred knowledge or ancient knowledge are really just giving us insight into how we get there. And it looks like it's supernatural. It looks like the idea of an omniscient being that would live forever would be a supernatural aspect, but the fact that omniscience is a very specific thing, and someone gave us that idea. It's not an idea that exists in nature. There's not something that's been teaching us, oh, this thing knows all things. It's we have this, but we don't know where we got it. And to me, this is one of our bigger clues. So I think that how we feel about, it's if like when our kids are having these things, the only other way I think you're going to be able to tap into this is through holographic medicine, which is really just utilitarian medicine. What works? What is it that works here? And so you have to throw everything at it. And if you throw everything at it, you'll probably end up with some sort of ancestral holographic medicine, which is placebo. And we're asking, how do we get the placebo to work? I think you have to not be afraid that your placebo can work. I think that
Still,
socially you
it
find your
comes down.
outcast if you do not operate if you pull out your placebo and pull something off in society, I think deep down you know that you will be punished for that, deeply punished for that, deeply eradicated. You will end up with a mental illness. It will happen overnight.
You still have to lie to yourself, like through the RNA.
Yeah. I think you're right on with I think you're exactly right. In fact,
I mean, you can't have sexual reproduction, and you can pick one or the other, right? Epigenetically, and you can through that pathway, and you can't have it's like exactly what you're saying though. It's like you remember your set, like with like apple trees or fruit trees that you're basically cloning, and you have to take like the new growth that hasn't had a time to interact with the environment, right? And so you're taking information you're taking the epigenetics out of it. I mean, reverse engineering might not be the correct term, but you're taking something
Yeah.
before, and you're taking the interaction out of it, and so so that is your placebo, basically, also, I believe, it's
Mhm.
like still, because if, if placebo is not involved in epigenetics, then that means that there's just two different things that I can't distinguish.
Yeah.
So it would be true, but it seems like they're the same thing. But anyway, but it got me all fired up there, James. Because I just
Good.
about that kind of stuff.
Good. I'm glad. I'd say more, but there's hands up, and seriously, I wouldn't stop talking. There's
Well, thank you, Pi. And I'll just a friendly reminder, we're about 4 minutes out to the close of the meeting, Truth. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a quick observation or insight and just a question. It had occurred to me that what if because I believe that there is an Akash, I believe that there is the Akashic record that exists. What if the Akash was like a automat or a vending machine that the spirit would need to select certain experiences that were transpersonal but would appear to be personal? Does that make any sense at all?
Absolutely.
yeah, this is what I mean by really the Akashic record could just be this uber self, just the person that so before you came here, the equation for you living was probably already solved. And this is the tricky part that we're like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but it's true. You a clone, you know how to make the original grow. And so you're reproducing the same life for that clone because you knew that it worked, right? So the Akashic would be that. It would be the drip emitters, the scheduling, the light schedules, the we're gonna rent this Airbnb and grow a bunch of pot. It's like that entire thing is the Akashic record acting on itself, knowing what's necessary next without the plant really having any idea. In fact, you want the plant to kind of be innocent. You kind of want it to be sort of not really aware of what's happening. Same with clones. If you could clone something, if you knew that something was going to be a success and cloned it before they got old, this is what I think is the future of cloning. Because if you clone someone that once they're already old, I think that clone's probably ruined. The memories, it's not ruined. It's just not pure. Someone will come up with the word pure. The Enoch seed will have to be kept in a baby-like state of innocence, right? Because the baby has pure placebo pie. Like the baby has no limitations that are saying you can't fly, you can't hover, you can't eat bees. Like all these things are, I mean, there's actually certain things that aren't, but most things are completely possible. So if you imagine the baby inside the placenta, then all things are possible there, which is probably why it's alive. That's probably why it's growing, is because it has the torque, the cerebellical, that's a weird word, sorry, but the cerebellum is re-emphasizing its belief that you can grow, that you can grow here, that you can actually grow toes. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's like, just trust me, just grow some toes. And you do it because the placebo has been programmed into your genes. This is
That's why I
why,
think it's related. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
healing.
yeah,
Healing is cloning,
yeah.
and
Yeah, and all your innate healing abilities, even your propensity to cellularly replicate, mitosis, meiosis, this is placebo. This is placebo. So you were born with a certain virus. This is why they say most DNA is like 20% virus. They actually say that. because it's like it's some kind of foreign invader had to have come in and shown you how to do just the basic elements of like photosynthesis. Yes, even photosynthesis. Like we're practicing those processes. They've just been turned into these massive complex things called mitochondria. Like it's basically the same instrument, but it's only been built on this placebo belief. And that belief has a different DNA than we do, which is why I'm thinking that it makes so much sense that you have to look at yourself symbiotically, that you have to look at your placebo as tapping into knowledge that is there. You know it's there because you've got mitochondria that are proving it, something that's not you, but is you, but is put here to power you. That's why mitochondria are called the cell's power. Isn't that just placebo? Isn't that really where that's coming from? This belief in something outside of yourself. And now you've got mitochondria, the the power cells, the power centers of all your cells come from outside of yourself, like signature wise. And that this would be what we would need to trust in the idea of opening our vents and coalescing with the world, creating a chemical prana economy with everyone outside of us. We're kind of forced into it at gunpoint by the mitochondria in our head, proving how magical this is. How there's you're going to find all kinds of magic out here, man. Look, here's a lollipop. Here's all these interesting things that you've never seen before, but you know are out there because the mitochondria are kind of giving you that front juice to make yourself try, so to speak. So, yeah, it's it's a snowball drop down a hill in the winter after perfect snow. It's going to do this every time, true. Every single time, this is what's going to happen, right? Because the causality will allow this creature to grow the same way. If I just believe if I put this seed in this dirt and go to Walmart and put this potting soil and put water on it, that I'll just come away and it'll grow. That's amazing. That's fucking amazing. You can't do that with a rock. Why not? Because we don't believe that yet. We haven't gotten there, right? We believe in mulch. Mulch can do that, but rocks can't. That's so we can permeate mulch with our belief, but we can't quite get rocks yet. We're still working on that, you know.
Well, I have a confession to make, guys. I had a really good time today, and it felt like I talked a lot, but thank you guys for your patience with that. We've come to the time to close Friday Dojo number 236. So if everybody would kindly unmute, we gonna do a selfie today, James? All right. Well,
Yeah, let's do that.
all right. Whenever everyone's ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Have a good day.
Allah.
All right. Appreciate you guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Night. I mean,
Come at 3 of those.
bye.
Man, bye.